The Lee and Kirby Fantastic Four run is potentially the most important comic run in all of Marvel's history, and it's dating all the way back to the 1960s. Now, I know 60s comics are very dense and not the most new reader friendly compared to some modern starting points, but without Stan Lee's Fantastic Four run, Marvel would be nowhere near where it is today. Now, it goes without saying how impactful Stan Lee is to Marvel. He essentially created everything we know today. But the reality is, a lot of people would probably tell you that reading such old comic books would do more harm than good, but I completely disagree. The first 50 issues of Lee and Kirby's Fantastic Four are the first comics I've ever read, and since then I've probably read shelves worth of comic books, and if those initial issues were no good, I probably wouldn't even be making this video right now. This run introduces some of the most important concepts in Marvel's history, with iconic arcs such as the three-part Galactus introduction arc, and a lot of these concepts are still being used 50 plus years later. Now, what makes this run actually good compared to some of the slop coming out at the time? For me, it's easily the way the team interacts with each other and their relationships and struggles as the run goes on. Marvel's first family does a great job at introducing the Marvel Universe to us, its villains, other heroes, the different locations, and all the concepts. And individually, each of the members adds something special to a time where everything was so new. We have Johnny, who's the lovable teenager, always joking around, lightening the mood, cracking jokes with Ben. Sue, who started as the useless damsel in distress but quickly learned the capabilities of her powers and arguably became the most valuable member of the team, and in the modern era, she's actually the strongest member of the team. Reed, the slightly overbearing, pretentious leader who struggled to share his feelings often and sunk himself into his inventions but still deeply cared for the team. And then of course Ben, who's the funniest member and my personal favourite, and his themes of accepting himself and challenges of being the thing are so interesting to me and what made me really fall in love with this run. Now, in retrospect, we've had about 60 years of Fantastic Four comics, and to be honest, the idea of the family working together as a superhero team has kind of gotten stale because I feel like there's only so much they can do, and they've almost done every story they could do. But because this was the 60s, everything was new, and maybe that's why this run felt so special. Now let's delve into what actually happens in this run. In the first 10 issues of the run, we get so much. We get the team's origin, which I'm sure everyone watching is already familiar with. We get the introduction of a bunch of villains such as Namor finally in the Marvel Universe because his comics actually started before the 60s. We get the Puppet Master. We obviously get Doctor Doom and the introduction of his relationship with Reed. And now, 60 years later, he's arguably Marvel's most iconic villain and is about to star in the Avengers film this year. We also get the Skrulls in issue 2, who are a massive deal in Marvel and have massive events such as Secret Invasion nearly 50 years later. And yeah, the show was pretty terrible, but the comic arc was amazing. Then, in the next 10 issues, we get introduced to so many characters. Ramatut, who later becomes Kang the Conqueror. Molecule Man, who has a massive part to play in Secret Wars, the OG and in 2015 on with Doom. The Thing has a fight with the Hulk. The Watcher is introduced. You should start to see a pattern, which is the fact that this run was literally introducing key characters and concepts nearly every single issue that are still being used decades later. And I think the novelty of every adventure feeling so fresh and creative, despite some modern runs where things feel kind of repetitive at times, is what makes the run so amazing and still hold up 60 years later, despite the dense, wordy writing style. And the run, in my opinion, doesn't slow down either. It's arguably at its best 50 issues in with the three-parter Galactus arc, in which Galactus and Silver Surfer come to Earth, and Silver Surfer, after hearing some heartfelt words from Alicia, Ben Grimm's girlfriend, decides to go against Galactus. And that arc is so iconic, it was just adapted 60 years later in last year's Fantastic Four movie. Now I want to touch upon my favourite issue of the run, issue 51, titled This Man, This Monster. In this issue, a scientist captures and drugs the Thing, takes his appearance and powers, and locks Ben in a dungeon. He then goes and infiltrates the Baxter building with intent on destroying Reed. But after witnessing Mr. Fantastic's selflessness during a dangerous experiment in subspace, the scientist experiences a change of heart, and he actually ends up being the hero rather than the monster he thought he would appear as. The imposter Ben then sacrifices himself, and the real Ben Grimm returns to the Baxter building, and the team finally realize that he is the true Ben, and they have a great realization that the imposter had sacrificed himself and took it like a man. And in the very next issue, we quite literally get Black Panther's first appearance in the Marvel Universe, and we get a great storyline in which he defeats all four of the team. Now, I'm sure Stan Lee didn't expect Molecule Man or Black Panther or Doom to be such important characters many decades later, but it doesn't take away from the fact that they are, and that in my opinion, there's no run that changed Marvel as much as this one. And another thing I'd like to add is Jack Kirby's contribution to this book always goes under the radar. Yes, Stan Lee was the main guy, but Jack Kirby did as much work for the book as he did. So yeah, I would definitely recommend giving the run a try if you haven't already, even if you read thousands of comic book issues from the 2000s and onwards, because I think you can still gain a lot from reading it. Thank you so much for the support, guys. It means the world. If you enjoyed, if you made it up to here, like, comment, subscribe, do all of that. And yeah, thank you.